Tonight, I want to talk about the movie Iron Man. So the MCU with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings has entered into Phase 4. So let's go all the way back where it began. 2008 Iron Man. Let's just get this out of the way. Iron Man was not the most popular character back then. I'd say the most popular characters from Marvel back then were Spider-Man and X-Men, probably. Well, Spider-Man back then, and still today, the film rights are owned by Sony. Back then, X-Men, the film rights were owned by Fox. Disney has since bought 20th Century Fox, and now they still make movies, but it's under the moniker 20th Century Studios. So Iron Man is kind of what they're putting all their chips behind. Marvel had just entered into the movie business, and they christened themselves Marvel Studios. And they want to make a movie. They bring on this director who had done amazing things with the movie Elf. So he does great things for Elf, and it puts him on the map. 2008 comes along. Marvel wants to make this movie. They give the reins to Jon Favreau. They want to cast somebody who is known yet still kind of small. Favreau brings in Robert Downey Jr. For those who don't know, Robert Downey Jr. had a very checkered past. He's cleaned himself up. He's kind of rebirthed himself since Iron Man, but very checkered past. A lot of alcohol use, drug use, but he has again since recovered. He has a second chance, if you will. So the studio did not want to take a chance on this guy. So Favreau convinces them to take this chance, and boom, we have Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I know a lot of people can't even see another hero or another actor playing this hero, myself included, right? He did such a great job. He just embodied Iron Man, especially Tony Stark. So again, Iron Man 2008. Low expectations. They're hoping just to kind of make a little bit more than their money back, and they can move into the next movie. The next movie in the MCU on this was Incredible Hulk, but starring Ed Norton, but that was a Universal project. Even though they made a deal with Universal to tie the movies in, it wasn't technically the next Marvel project. So Iron Man 2008. Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges, and directed by Jon Favreau. This movie was way better than it even deserved to be. Pump in, first movie, nobody's expecting it to make that many waves, but here you have a superior performance from Robert Downey Jr., you have a magnificent performance by Jeff Bridges. I feel like if going back and seeing this performance by him, he delivers one of the best villain performances in any of the Marvel movies. And they got it in the very first one. So it just set the stage for how good these Marvel movies could be. So this has a runtime of about 2 hours and 6 minutes. It's exactly 2 hours and 6 minutes. So it's about 2 hours, and there's not a lot of wasted time. They establish very upfront who Tony Stark is, so they don't waste any time. You don't see him become Iron Man until an hour into the movie. Yet, you don't really see it because there's so many other things going on. Of course, he builds the suit of armor within the first 30 to 45 minutes, but that's like that first suit, the prototype. He becomes the Iron Man that we know about an hour into the movie. So halfway into the movie is when we finally see Iron Man show up. So if you want to say, it's an Iron Man movie, it's about an hour. And I think that's why we get such a great movie. It's almost like two movies smashed together. It's like 2 hour-long movies smashed together, and it just paces really well. Again, a lot of this has to do with Jon Favreau's directing, of course, but just Jeff Bridges delivering this wonderful performance. Who in the world thought you could look menacing on a Segway? But this man manages to do it. His speech and Ironmonger. You believe that this guy can beat Iron Man. There's not a lot of times during the MCU that you believe a lot of these heroes are in trouble. Not until the later stages, right? But in this movie, you believed that stuff could happen. Of course, we never really thought Iron Man was in that much trouble because, everything's hinging on him. But they still did a great job of showing us the hero's journey. And that's really what this movie set up. It's a wonderful movie. In fact, I'm actually going to have to rate this a 5.0. Because as far as kicking off what we now know as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, this movie did it. And it did it wonderfully. I mean, I challenge you to find any other thing that kicks off a franchise where the first movie of that entire franchise is that good. It just is. I mean, what do you think? Because I absolutely loved the movie. And I was not a big Iron Man fan coming into this movie, but it made me an Iron Man fan. Not enough to keep reading all the comics, but I do keep up with the character, especially now in the comics. And his arc throughout the whole, what is this, 13-year journey now, 12-year journey, I guess 11-year journey, was fantastic. It was wonderful to see how Tony Stark went from where he started and where, he ended up in Avengers Endgame. And so for a first movie to come out, it was wonderful to see. We got our first inkling at Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson, so it was wonderful to see S.H.I.E.L.D. in there and really starting to get integrated in. And of course, the end credit scene where we have Nick Fury show up. Nobody expected to see that, especially for him to introduce the Avengers Initiative in 2008. We didn't get the Avengers movie until 2012. So they really started laying groundwork that far back. So it's a wonderful movie. I know most people have seen it. If you have not seen it, definitely go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It is a wonderful watch. It doesn't feel like 2 hours. It's great. It really is. It really is a great movie. I really want to know, do you think it was a great movie? Because I do, and I laid out some of the reasons why. I would love to know your reasons on why you didn't. If you did think it was great, why did you think it was great? Come on, man. I want to know. But until next time, I will see you later.